Good afternoon, everyone. This is Queenie Clem with Queenie's Book Talk and Reviews, and I am your literary ambassador. And today I have a special guest on my channel. Please introduce yourself to the readers.
Hello there. My name is Patricia A. Saunders. How are you?
Fine. What is your genre and what attracted you to that genre?
My main genre is poetry. It's my expression. Everything that comes up just hits the page. And then I wrote a memoir because every time I was doing book signings, they kept asking me more about me and what drove me to write. And so I just began writing from, my childhood all the way up until my adulthood, going through the storm and coming through. I wrote all about it in my memoir.
Okay. Now tell us about your book, Four Seasons of Love, and tell us about it.
So, what I did is I broke the book up into four chapters, going with the seasons, from spring, summer, winter, and fall. And it's poetry. And what was really, I was all excited, it was getting ready to launch. And then we, as the world, shut down right when my book launched. But Four Seasons of Love, like I said, I just take everything and break it down into the emotions, love, different phases of love. You have love for your parents, your loved one, your lover, your husband, your spouse, all of that. And so I just broke it down into the different seasons.
What inspired this particular story?
About Four Seasons of Love. What I thought about was the different times that I have fallen in love or gone through hardships dealing with love, and I just went through and literally decided, let me see if I can do something different versus just having one theme and go through that whole theme throughout the whole book, right? I said, let me just break it down into, with summer, it's hot and passionate, whereas with fall, you're preparing for the fall, that snuggle season, so I just took my time and broke it down into those different expressions. But what was really, like I said, the inspiration is just reflecting. I always go through this period of time where I reflect in regards to what can I do different for the readers.
In 3 words, what can readers expect from this book?
From Four Seasons of Love, I feel like any person, male or female, picking up the book would be able to, one, relate to their first kiss, falling in love, the proposal, to ending up saying goodbye to a loved one and expecting new love.
Oh, okay. Can you read a snippet from your book?
Sure. Let's see here. The last leaf falls. Sitting by the window, looking at the trees, watching the wind blow, the branches bend, never breaking, reminds me of myself. Life will throw you curveballs. Wisdom will show you that you can withstand. Anchored in the soil is the trunk of the tree, weathered many storms, knowing that it will bloom in the spring again. A testament for me to remember that with the good and the bad, there is a cycle, and there will be a new season. It took years for me to get to this point in my life, and I've seen so much. I've experienced so much. Life, I felt bare. Times I felt overwhelmed. Then there are times I'm in full bloom. I'm like the tree, always evolving until the last leaf falls.
Wow. Now tell us a little about that poem.
So
How did you
with
feel?
this one, it made me reflect on life. You know, we all go through different stages of life, and looking at it from the time you're born to the time when you're going to pass. I had many loved ones who were going through all different, illnesses and passing with cancer, right? And it made me reflect on life in regards to no matter what, you can withstand, right? Until the last leaf falls.
Got it. Now let's talk about your book, Sunshine After the Rain. Tell us about that.
Oh my God. Yes, 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 yes. So that's a memoir. And what made me break it into, there is the beginning, talking about my childhood growing up in Waterbury, Connecticut, where a majority of the population does not look like me. I talk about being bullied as a child and how my mother poured into me in regards to one, I was beautiful. I was educated. I had loved ones, who were going to always be there to protect me. And then I go through, the journey going off to college and experiencing, from coming from a small town to now I am in my own little bubble, right? But life had not prepared me for what I was going to experience. In college, I experienced date rape, and my parents, trying to protect me 8 hours away. My father wanting to come to where I was, calling my brothers, calling my nephews, I want to protect her at any cost, and dealing with that, and then coming out to California, because I realized I had to become independent. I was a daddy's girl, and my father had told me that he was preparing to die of cancer, and I didn't know what to do. And I felt that by me coming to California, I would become independent. Still, all these different curveballs were being thrown at me in regards to, working in a hostile work environment, dealing with, now I'm in California versus small town in Connecticut. And then I deal with my father passing. That was a shock. Even though I knew it was going to come, just dealing with that. And my mother still being in Connecticut till now, my mother coming out to California, finding out that she had dementia that eventually became Alzheimer's. And as a family unit, how we worked together, but still in regards to when she passed, how one, I felt that I died with her, and thoughts of suicide were there, right? I couldn't get up. I was self employed. I couldn't get up to work. So by not working, you can't pay bills. And so going through all that to now not having anything, I didn't have any money. I didn't have a job, right? And so I was like, okay, well, where can I go? Can I go and stay with my siblings till I can stand back on my feet? And the answer came back, no, there was no room. I could stay at a women's shelter. So that was like, okay, here is this journey, but now here is this test that I'm going through, right? And I'm feeling like I'm all alone, and I'm testing, and I'm saying, Lord, are you really there? Are you supposed to be having my back, And then I go through the testimony with the book in regards to how God was showing me that people were still in my life, even when I didn't think they were there, right? People in the church were calling on me. I had a janitor, not a janitor, but a maintenance man from my old apartment complex that vouched for me with no money to go into an apartment, and me building my life all over again, and jobs coming that I wasn't expecting. I didn't even have my resume out, but a job called, right? So all these things were happening, and I came through that storm. And so the title of the book is, there is sunshine after the rain, making it through, life struggles, because everyone goes through all different struggles in life. Some people give up, right? And some people make it through. And I wanted to have this book as a testament, showing people that you can make it through. I sprinkled poetry throughout, and I went through the genre and thought of, for colored girls who thought, that the rainbow wasn't enough, right? Who had thoughts of suicide. And that's what I compared it to. So it was like, here's an interlude, here's some poetry, now here's the story. Here's some, so it wouldn't be so deep. Okay, here's some more poetry. And I just broke it up that way.
Hmm, interesting. What do you want readers to take away from this book?
From this book, one, they'll get to know a little bit more about me, but they also will learn that, you know, coming from a Christian background, that even when there are tests that are coming through your life, right, to not give up, to remember that there are people, that are there. I know I was a very private person, so for me to open up and to share was a challenge, right? But it's a testament for others to be able to say it's okay. You can't have somebody that can stand in that corner and pray for you when you don't have the strength to pray for yourself.
Amen. Amen. What did you learn while writing this book?
Oh my goodness. I had to go through things that I had put in the back of my mind to forget about, right? So by writing the book, I had to relive some moments, some painful
Yes.
moments. And it was a lot of crying while I was typing. There was some laughter because I remembered some good moments, right?
Mhm.
But it also, while writing the book, it renewed my faith that, God was always there throughout the good and the bad.
Hmm. Can you read a snippet from the book?
All right. All right, here we go. The testimony.
Hmm.
I received 3 cards from 3 different women with the words stating, "This too shall pass," inscribed in each. And at that time, I didn't see a way out. All I saw was I was drowning, I couldn't swim, and if I jumped, no one would catch me. Slowly, things were unfolding and being revealed. My mother was gone, she was in a better place. And I had to accept that I was still here on earth. I had to live. If not for myself, I had to be the example of what she intended me to be. She always said I was special and I had a purpose. The church was her sanctuary. She was very active from being at Sunday school, Bible study, choir rehearsal, and church service. I couldn't make myself go to where she found peace. I felt God had taken away everyone who I loved. The funny thing is, the church wouldn't let me go. I don't know how many, I excuse me, I don't know how members of the church had my phone number, but I had various members calling to check on me, telling me they loved me and were praying for me. And when I would enter the church, I wanted to sit in the seat where mother always sat. I had a feeling that if I could feel her presence, I would it would help me to heal the hole in my heart. I felt that I was wearing a mask because here I was broke, going from making a 6-figure income to giving $2 in the offering basket. I pinned a flyer on the bulletin board of the sale of my house, hoping no one recognized that it belonged to me. There were people coming in and out of my life for a reason, and I had to open my arms to receive what they were bringing. The first was my attorney, who I felt was a father figure who guided me with my assets, directing my steps, and telling me that we were going to make it through. There was a female minister who was praying for me, holding me, wiping away my tears. I had to share what I was going through because I needed help. Being a private person, it was difficult to share my experiences. A visiting minister named Wanda Turner was preaching a sermon in the pulpit, sharing how she had filed for bankruptcy. She lost her home and had the desire to want a home again. How she drove in neighborhoods where she wanted to purchase another home, found a home but needed an additional $10,000. She was praying for help because the bank wasn't going to give her any money. Her maid overheard the conversation, and it was the maid who gave her the money. The minister's testimony is how you treat people and don't judge a book by its cover. And she was able to purchase a home again. And when I decided to sell my home before it was foreclosed, I knew it was a realtor who lived in the community. I had to trust her with my story and what I planned to do. She gave me a book to read. It was called The Secret. There was a craze that was everybody was talking about. It was her way of trying to reach me and helping me to stay focused in the present, looking towards the future, and seeing that within myself, I had the energy to come through.
Amen. 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 What inspired you to start writing?
Oh, you really want to know? Okay. My mom, like I said, was an ordained minister, and she wrote all of her sermons in her journal. And when she passed with Alzheimer's, going through all of her belongings, we found her journals. And that was her legacy. It was her words. And so in my darkest, when I say my darkest hours, um, I just went to starting to write and I wrote poetry. Um, it was my way of continuing my legacy. I don't have any children, right? And what if I was to inherit the disease? I wanted my words to still be here after I'm gone.
Mm-hmm. What do you think makes a good story?
One, for a reader to be able to relate. I feel like with my stories, a person can either put themselves in my shoes, relate to someone they know that has gone through the same experience, and to see the outcome and be able to relate to it.
What's your experience with publishing your books?
Well, I have published it with a couple of publishers. And so by being self published, I've gone through the series when you're first publishing, you're so excited. You know, they call you and say, oh, you wanna do this, you wanna market this. I never forget, I paid to have an interview, and the person was a business person, not a publisher, not in even in dealing with books. He dealt with business, and that's what his genre was, business, right? So I was like, okay, I got up at 5 o'clock in the morning to be on this interview. I didn't even do my research to see who his demographics were. His demographics were all in the red states. So I was like, okay, I know nobody's going to be listening to me. And nobody's going to be purchasing my books, you know. And it was that point where I realized I did not have to say yes to every time the publisher called to ask me, okay, Pat, I want you to pay $500 for a press release, or I want you to pay $1,500 for this. I had to look at where my demographics were. Who is my reader? What's my niche? And then explore that and make wiser decisions. I was doing like a book challenge where you had to write a book within 40,000 words within the month of November, and they had a different publisher, and so I went and I tried that publisher. Totally different experience. I'm not being hounded. I'm not being sold on something that is not a fit for me. And so it's perfect. I've paid for like book reviews, and the person who was reading the book obviously isn't familiar with one, the urban market, a black poet, and didn't get it. I've also paid to have my books become audio. And I wrote a book, not a book, yeah, I did. It was called Through the Fire. And in it, it's a poem called Clear. It's very passionate. It's talking about my mother, and she coded. The person who read it, when I was listening to her, sounded like Mary Poppins. And I was like, this is not going to work. You don't even sound passionate about it. You know what I'm saying? It sounds like you're reading a children's book. So my experience has been one, from the beginning, and I started in 2012 to now, just being very selective, and making sure that one, if I'm going to have someone to, let's say, market my book, or if I'm going to have somebody who is going to edit my book, they look like me, and they get what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, who is your audience? What is your target
So,
audience?
so my target audience are mainly women. Mainly women. There are some men, but mainly women, who are in their 30s, all the way up until their late 60s. Um, and it's funny. I'm in California, but my niche is mainly on the East Coast. You know what I'm saying? I'm able to, I have my page on Facebook and Instagram, but you know how you go through and you look at your analytics to see who's
Mm-hmm.
looking and who's grasping and liking your pages and everything. And there are some women who are not necessarily African American, but majority of the people who are reading my book and get what I'm talking about when I make a reference to a song like from D'Angelo and I say brown sugar, they get what I'm talking about. They are mainly on the East Coast, New York, all the way down Maryland and into the South. And I love it. I try to make sure that at least once a year I go to the National Book Club conference. so that that way I can meet my readers and I can listen to my readers and I can get ideas from my readers. So I now know what to write about next.
Now tell us about your new spring release, Saying Bye.
So I am in the process of publishing, doing again, self-publishing, a book that says it's called Saying Goodbye. It's poetry, and it's dedicated to my late sister who passed of cancer in November. And my sister and I shared a common bond in regards to we both wrote poetry. And so I just, sat down. And again, like I said, I was going through that grieving process. And this is my way of expressing myself. And so it is poetry that is dedicated to her. All different topics from, love, finding love at a later stage because she got married in her 60s. I talk about our relationship in regards to there was a 19-year difference. I write about things that she had shared with me in regards to one, she was an accountant by trade. And at the time that she was doing it, she was the only one who was Black. And being that person that wanted to step out in the forefront so that others could follow behind her. So I write these different poems, different topics, and it's called Saying Goodbye. And it's like I said, it's dedicated to her.
How does professional editing influence the development of your books?
Could you repeat that again? I'm sorry.
How does professional editing influence the development of your books?
Oh, goodness gracious, yes. So for one, I've had two different editors. And so what is really interesting is I could write and I could see something, right? The editor comes in and she goes, okay, twist this word and put it this way so that the audience gets it. You might have one idea or you might have used one word, but it could have multiple meanings. You want it so that, one, if it crossed over into a different market, they got it. Also, I find that sometimes I might use a particular word frequently, right? And my editor will come in and she goes, okay, Pat, you say I, right? You need to take I out so that the person who's reading it can picture themselves in that poem. Okay. And it challenges me to be better. Each book, I felt that, I grew, I learned not just from my own experience, but from what the professional editor had poured into me by sharing their wisdom, right? Because a lot of times I find people who say, I don't need a professional editor, I could do it myself, right? And then you purchase their book and then you see, grammar edits, errors, different things, or you go, what does this mean? So I give major kudos to professional editors, copywriters, everyone, because for the simple fact, their job is to make sure that my vision is going to one, shoot, who's to say if my work doesn't become traditional published? Who's to say that my work doesn't become a New York bestseller, right? It can't happen without me having that finished touch to it.
What do you find to be the hardest part of writing for you?
Starting. Starting, okay? Starting. Because what ends up happening, what I end up doing, I find that I write best in the evening. I light candles. I might even have a couple of glasses of wine. And I will pour out on the pages. I will pour out until it's like, oh my God, it's 2-3 o'clock in the morning and I got to get up and go to work in the morning. So to sit down and not have any distractions and just let those words flow. Also, if I put music on, I find that helps to influence me as well. Because like I said, I've written poems called, Brown Sugar, I've written one with Eric Bonet in mind in regards to when he's talking about wrap your brown legs around me, right? So it's like all these different things that influence me. But the hardest thing is to sit down and start. I could have an idea and write it down in my journal, right? But now I got to take it from my journal. I got a journal full of poems. Now I got to take it and put it into my laptop, And so it's like, okay, start, Pat, start.
Well, how long does it take you to finish a book?
It depends. I've written one book while I was on a cruise. It's the memoir took longer. It took me 2 years because again, I had to, relive some painful experiences, right? But it depends. When I did the 40,000 word challenge in the month of November, I had gotten through those 40,000 words, but my book still wasn't finished. I still had more to go because it lit a fire in me. And then I might have paused and then started up again in January. And then, okay, so now the book is finished and now I give it to the editor. And now we're going back and forth with rounds of edits. So I always try to have it so that I publish my books in March, but I've published books in November. It depends, but it varies. It does vary.
Okay. What has been your greatest accomplishment thus far in your literary career?
Oh goodness, having my work featured at the Los Angeles Times Festival. Now I couldn't go there, but I shared it on my page, and it was my one of my best friends. Her daughter went to that particular school and took a picture. She looked for my book, okay, and sent it to me. And I said, "Now look at here, here's this girl from a small town of Waterbury, Connecticut, where not many get out of the town, and there's my work at the Los Angeles Times, book festival." So, one of the greatest accomplishments. And I just, I know that my mother and my father, who had limited education, and both are in heaven. I know that they are so proud of me because
Mm-hmm.
here's this little girl who, as a kid, I used to write poetry and just, put it in my little notebook, and nobody thought anything about it.
What has influenced you the most as a writer?
Um, what has influenced me the most is one, having it so that people recognize it,
Mm-hmm.
relate to it, write reviews and tell me how it touched them. Um, you know, I love it when I go to, like I said, I go to the National Book Club conference and somebody will walk up to me and hug me and tell me that somebody had given them the book. They were down and out and they read the book and how it touched them and changed them. Then I know my work hasn't been done in vain.
What are you currently working on right now?
Going to finish up saying goodbye because we're now in the edit phases. And like I said, that and I'm trying something different, Um, one, I started this book, and it's so funny. I started writing this book in 2019, and it's a mystery, and I never do mysteries, right? But I'm gonna see how it goes because I feel like it's calling me back and wants me to finish it up.
Okay. What book events do you have in this quarter or this first quarter?
Not in this quarter. Not in this quarter. I always have it where I do the National Book Club Conference, and that's the end of July. And then what I do is I look at different events that are, let's say, in California for me to attend. A lot of, if I try to find like vendor events so that I could be doing book signings there. Um, but I'm always looking because one, I don't want to have it where I'm at the wrong place at the wrong time. I want to make sure that one, my niche is going to be there. Because, I've gone all over the place, and, it's not always about the quantity of books that you sign. It's about getting that exposure so that the readers get to know who you are, because they're making that investment in purchasing your book. even if they have to download it, you want them to be able to say, yes, I enjoyed that book, and I would refer that book to someone else, right? So I try to make sure that I just do the right decisions in regards to where I'm at and where I have my books at.
Okay. How can readers find you and your books?
They can find me at Amazon as well as Barnes and Noble. They can go to my website, which is patriciaasaunders.com. And also, if you go on Facebook, I have a page, and it's if they go to facebook.com/, Blessed Poet Pat, they'll find author Patricia A. Saunders. I have it where myself and my team, we do daily meditations and motivational quotes and prayers. We're getting ready to have guests on the page because my thing is when I was going through excuse me, my trials and tribulations and now came through the storm, what I want to do is I want to have a series where I have guests come on in regards to your mind, body, and soul. So I have someone who's going to be talking about building your wealth. Because, like I said, as an African American female, I was not game to be telling people about my finances, right? I wasn't going to tell nobody I was broke and I didn't have no money. I wasn't going to do that, right? But, by me finally opening up, I was able to have someone to share with me. And then also in regards to mine, I mean, I worked in a toxic work environment. And I thought I was going to go crazy. I took a month off on stress relief, because I never have been in a situation. I mean, I was brought up in regards to you never quit. So for me, I'm going to have another guest speaker to come on and talk about, therapy and work, how you can deal with different issues that are coming up. And then with the body, someone talking about how you can take care of yourself. Because I know as myself, I never had high blood pressure until I was in that particular job. So I want somebody to talk about that as well. So just sharing that on the page.
All right. Is there anything else you would like to add before we close?
Well, I want to thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to talk with you and be interviewed with you. I really have enjoyed myself.
Thank you. Now, again, tell us your books.
My books are,
Show us the covers.
okay, so it is There is Sunshine After the Rain by Patricia A. Saunders. There is also The Four Seasons. I'm trying to make sure you can see it. Four Seasons of Love. Again, it's by Patricia A. Saunders. And if you go on to Amazon and you put in books by Patricia A. Saunders, you will see all 6 of my books that I have written.
All right. Well, thank you for coming in today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. God bless.
And to you. This is Queenie Clem with Queenie's Book Talk and Reviews. Happy reading. Bye, y'all.